This is a Balanced Brain podcast with your hosts, Melanie Nicholson and Sean Clift.
Hello and welcome back to the Balanced Brain podcast. My name's Sean Clift and I'm joined with my co-host and very good friend, Melanie Nicholson. Melanie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sean. How are you going?
Yeah, really great. Another exciting episode we've got tonight. Our guest, Courtney Brown. Now, Courtney went to go on a 3-week holiday to Hawaii, ended up staying 6 months. Courtney, you went on holidays, you got lost, but you found yourself. Welcome to the Balanced Brain podcast. Tell us all about it. What happened in Hawaii?
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Hawaii for me was one of those, I guess, like I call it a soul searching time where, you know, you book a holiday because you're a bit over life and you have your job and you don't want to do it. And someone goes, "Hey, course, I'm going to Hawaii. Do you want to come with me?" And I was like, yeah, you know what? So we booked 3 weeks. My friend at the time, he left after 3 weeks and I was like, I'm not going. And I stayed for 6 months just working, you know, illegally, I guess, which also is why I had to come home after 6 months because I was not supposed to be there. But I guess over the time, I just started to find like the reason or my purpose, I guess. And I know that sounds a little bit like wishy-washy and whatever, you went on the holiday to search for yourself. But actually whatever happened in Hawaii, and I'm still trying to pinpoint that one thing, if I had an epiphany or, you know, just some one experience, maybe it was all of it. But I got home and I was like, oh my God, like I'm not aligned with my purpose. What I'm doing is not connected with what I want to do. And so Hawaii for me just changed everything. And I guess in kind of, it just like started my whole journey. So at that time I went to Hawaii, obviously I'd broken up with a boyfriend. I hated my job and I went to Hawaii and then I came back, had that amazing time, a lesson learned, whatever it was. And then I came home and I was like, okay, well, I want to practice what I preach. And at that time, for those of you who don't know me, you probably don't, I'm a female strength and conditioning coach. So I'm very heavily passionate and based in the health industry. I've been coaching for over 13 years now, males as well, but mainly females. That's kind of my thing now. And I guess you don't really put a 6-month trip to Hawaii as a healthy one. Most of you probably wouldn't anyway. So it definitely wasn't. It was lots of partying, lots of different experiences. I taught surfing for 6 months, skateboarded to work every day in my bikini. Like I got paid cash. Like I was living the life, met some cool people. But obviously that, I guess, partying lifestyle or holidaying lifestyle wasn't kind of conducive to my health and fitness goals or values of what I had. I was still training and eating, you know, healthy stuff from like Hawaii, fruit and poke and stuff, but it wasn't like really connected. Like I didn't feel like I was helping anyone. I thought I was coaching, but like I was just coaching because I wanted a free gym membership. So there's really no like purpose there. So I guess over the 6 months in Hawaii, I kind of started to realize this. And then I got home and I think I had this like life-changing conversation with one of my coaches at the time. I was very heavily into CrossFit. And I guess a lot of you who do CrossFit might know it's very community-based and you feel very like you belong to something and you're very welcomed. And I guess for some point I felt like I belonged to that because I hadn't belonged to anything for so long. I'd finished uni, didn't know what I wanted to do, did random jobs every now and then, did some coaching, worked in the Whit Sundays, went straight to Hawaii. So I didn't really have like a purpose. I was just all over the place. And so when I found CrossFit, I felt like this sense of belonging because I'm like, I don't know if it's like, I don't want to speak for all CrossFitters out there, but I don't know if I was a misfit or I had no purpose, but going to the gym and feeling like I was a person and I was there to train and to accomplish whatever the training session gave me that day. I guess for me, that was my sense of belonging. But then it kind of turned to, I thought I was in the health and fitness industry and I was training really well, but then I kind of went too far the other side and I was training too much and it was affecting my health. And then I was not obsessed, but I was very into CrossFit and I was still very partying at the same time. So I had this conversation with one of my coaches at the time and it was a Monday morning, and I'm like, I'm going to go in for my session, and I'm like crying my eyes out, and I'm like, oh, I just went out on the weekend and life sucks and everything's so hard. And he's like, Courts, what do you want to do? Do you want the party life or do you want the health life? And I knew, like, that was always deep down ingrained in me that I wanted to be in the health and fitness industry, and I wanted to help people. I'd helped people from every job I could have. Since my first job was a swim teacher when I was, I think, 16. And then I taught kids about surf safety at the beach. And then I coached kids at school, for sport. So I was always teaching and helping and being with people. And I really loved that, but I couldn't find how I could do that because I was still so lost and a bit, confused with my who am I stage, I guess. I was about like 24. So I had a conversation with my coach and he was like, what do you want? And then I really sat down, and then he introduced me to a book. Like, this is the most life-changing book that I suggest to everyone. Like, it's my favorite. It's ratted and wet and pages full and it's highlighted. There's notes. You guys probably know. It's called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my first introduction to a spiritual journey or personal development. And it just changed how I saw everything. And so with my, I guess, epiphany in Hawaii, this conversation with my coach, I started to be like, okay, I know what I want to do. I've got to change my life around. And it just started like that, reading more personal development books, hanging around, with people who supported me. And then 6 months later, I met Rory, who is an amazing guy. I've been with him for almost, 6 years now. We have a baby on the way. But I really believe it was law of attraction because we had two very, very different people. He was into personal development as well. He was a business owner. He was an athlete. He was helping people and changing his lives. And I felt that I put that out there and introduced him. And I guess that was the start of where I really began to find my purpose, which was super, super, super exciting. So that's kind of where my story started and got to. And that was, like I said, around 2014. I'm 32 now, so I was around 24, 25. And then because Rory had a few gyms, I started coaching at them as well. And I started to really, really enjoy myself. And I started to really see how I could help people and teach girls different things and build these awesome relationships. But the problem with that was that because I was now a coach or a female coach, I felt like I had to have that image of a coach. I felt like I had to look super shredded or jacked or, always have a six pack, lift the heaviest in the gym, whatever it might be. So I found what I loved, and I wanted to be kind of a role model or an inspiration to these girls who wanted to train, who wanted to move away from the party life, who didn't know who they were and wanted to kind of find themselves and build a bit of confidence. But in myself, I was not happy. And I guess I was being now, I don't even think Instagram was around, or maybe it was just starting, but I was trying to be one of those fitspos, but it wasn't who I was. If anyone sees my Instagram, it's not as though my boobs are out all the time. It's never like I'm trying to teach people things. So I guess that kind of started a bit more of my health journey. I was training and I was eating pretty well, what I thought I was, but then I was training a lot and I was under eating. And then I've met Rory, so we obviously didn't want to have a baby when we first met. So I went on hormonal birth control. So all these things were affecting health, which I thought was a good thing, and then realized a few years later, it probably isn't the best thing. When I wasn't feeling recovered, I was training too much. I was eating, shitty diet foods, low carb, low fat, low sugar, whatever. I was putting, despite putting all the fun stuff I did in Hawaii in my body, I was now putting this thin synthetic chemical of a pill in my body every single day. And I was like, if I am, thinking about being a picture of health or teaching girls about health, I really want to get to the bottom of my health, to share my story and share my experiences and be like, I've tried this happened to me. Why did I do this? So then that's kind of where I found my passion for really helping girls and diving deep into not only body composition, I know that's part of it, but their health, their long-term health and their hormones and their metabolism and also their confidence in the gym.
Yeah, right. So let's flesh that out a little bit further as we get down. But I want to go back. It sounds like, 24-year-old Courtney had this incredible lifestyle, traveling and sort of free-willed and, doing a lot of partying and stuff like that. But you mentioned that you had a bit of a breakdown at times and said, life's so crap and da-da-da. So what were you thinking then? What was going through your mind at that point in time? Like, why were you thinking, even after all this sort of on the external seeming like this really great lifestyle, what was happening internally?
Yeah, I call that Court's the old Court. Like, sometimes she comes out, hasn't been for a while, but like, you might want to meet her. You probably don't want to. But I guess at that time, I think I said, like, I'd finished uni, didn't know what I wanted to do. My degree at uni was a business degree in leisure management. So, like, what even is that? Like, that's
yeah. Well, that came around when I was finishing school, and I thought, that sounds like me. Leisure management. But
yeah, exactly. I was the lady of leisure in my house, like, literally. I was. They don't do that degree anymore at UTS in Sydney. They've scrapped it. Probably I was the last year, that's why. But I think it was more because I was, surrounded by all these people who went to uni and knew what they wanted to do. And a lot of my girlfriends wanted to be nurses, so they were all studying and going straight to work. Like, I had no idea. And I thought that was a bad thing. Like, I was like, I am so lost. What am I going to do with my life? This sucks. And so I was known as the party girl and the fun girl. And so that must have been my cover. That's the only thing I can think of. I was trying to escape from something, as we all do or did. And that was kind of my, I guess, outlet into being like, I'm not lost. This is what I do. But I don't know where that came from. And I think it probably came from comparison. I went to an all-girls school. I went to a private school, family pressure to get a job, pressure to get that piece of paper from university, which like has been beneficial to me as well. But just at that time, I probably shouldn't have gone to uni straight away. I should have gone to Hawaii before uni, so I would have figured out what I wanted to study. So I guess it was just feeling that lost, maybe comparing to people, not knowing what I wanted to do. I guess that's kind of where that came from, which then led me to just go, well, let's go to Hawaii.
Courtney, I'm a recovering perfectionist, and it sounds like you are a perfectionist, and that can also lead to an absolute stalemate as to what to do. Like, because you want to get it so perfect, you can end up not making decisions. And that I can relate to that, where you're just paralyzed by indecision because you just want to get it so perfect.
Yeah, and I think for me, I always will like try to make other people happy before myself. I put other people first, which is okay. And I now know my boundaries, and I now know that I shouldn't do that all the time. But back in those days, I would do anything for anyone, and if someone needed something, I'd help them, but I would never ever help or support myself. So I was always giving, and not allowing myself to receive or rest or learn or whatever it might be. So I think that was kind of a cover up as well, I guess, because I was like, I'll just help everyone else and not me.
Yeah. So on that trip to Hawaii, you said it wasn't just one thing that sort of led you on to this discovery almost, but can you identify some of the things that happened while you were there that sort of started to change that mindset or that internal dialogue?
I try to think about this so much. It was, like 6-8 years ago. I try to think about it so much. And the only thing I can put it down to is the people I met there. Now, obviously, like, the local Hawaiians are like super chilled out. They love their life. I was in Waikiki most of the time, so it was very touristy. But working at the surf school, I was working with heaps of other people like me, travelers who are just like, wanted a holiday, didn't know what they really wanted to do, didn't have a full-time job or like any real aspirations in work or their professional life. So I guess just talking to them and learning more about their story, to me, it was like, oh, like, this is okay. I'm allowed to not have a plan. I'm allowed to, not be forced into doing anything. Yeah, and I think that was a really good lesson for me to be like, because like obviously when I was comparing myself to everyone, I was like, well, what am I doing? But when I met those people over there. I was like, oh, there's people like me out there, and that's so nice.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a big identity thing, obviously. So you am I right to say that you sort of had this idea of what you were going to do when you finished school? It's like, I'm going to go to uni and I'm going to be this really successful, student at uni, and then somehow get into this very successful career. And when that sort of started to dissipate, it is hard with that identity. You always think, oh, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. But then you really were discovering your true self, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that like these days, or when I was at school, people put a lot of pressure on you to do that. Like not everyone knows what they want to do when they're 17, 18. And I thought I had to. So I guess I have a twin sister as well. So she wanted to be a nurse. She was a really hard studier. Perhaps there was some comparison there as well, because she knew what she wanted to do. And I was known as the free spirit of the family. So I guess that was a little bit different as well. But yeah, no, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until probably after uni. My mum was an aerobics instructor, and she was like, if you work at a gym, you never have to pay a gym membership in your life, which is probably true. I haven't paid for a gym membership yet. But I think more so after when I kind of found that, I really liked it. I was still helping people because I liked putting people before me, but it was still kind of aligned with my values of the health and fitness as well. So eventually I figured it out, but it wasn't, straight away.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about when you got back from Hawaii. How was life different? What were you doing when you got back?
Yeah, I mean, I had to find a job. I can't even remember what I did. I think I just went back into some coaching, but that was when I sat down with my coach at the time. Like I changed my life just because he started talking to me about it. He's like, Courtney, what do you actually want? And that's when he introduced me to the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and then I read it, and then I slowly started to change the way I thought and how I felt, and what I kind of pieced it all together and figured out what I wanted to do. So that's when I think I mentioned law of attraction and meeting warrior. I think that my whole being or person, I don't know what it is, but it changed to help, invite those things into my life as personal development does, like that spiritual journey. So, yeah.
Yeah, Courtney, so tell us, I'm really interested. I think a lot of female listeners would be interested because I'm 44 and was put on the contraceptive pill when I was 18 for endometriosis, and never once thought about what that meant for my body. I was on that for 20 years. And then it wasn't until I was actually on Instagram one day and I saw that young girls are really starting to talk about this and how they felt like they had no control over their bodies, because most gynecologists, most doctors are male and they're always advising you on what to do with your body. And I only really started thinking about it through young women on posting on Instagram, because in my generation, women, still just never questioned how hormonal contraception was affecting them. And yeah, so it's really interesting how young girls in that area are taking control there.
I think that's something that, I hope to teach more girls about as well, and actually just have the conversation. I was quite young when I got my first period. I was in year 6, so 14.
Same with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So think about a 14, 13-year-old, going through that, and then no one talked about it. I think Mum left me a book on my pillow or something to read and figure it out yourself or whatever it was. But we never really spoke about it. We did a little bit, but it was always oh, you've got your period, don't talk about it, or that sucks, or it's such a burden. And then we go through these stages where we're taught that we can, fall pregnant every day of our cycle, and we just believe that because that's the only thing we're taught at school. And then we go to the doctor because we don't want to fall pregnant. And then, like you said, the male doctor will put us on contraceptive, some form of it, without telling us any side effects, without telling us what could cause it, and really only putting us on it as a masking solution. It's like a band-aid. It's never going to fix the problem. So some girls go on it for contraception, for painful periods, irregular periods, PMS, bad skin, weight gain, whatever it might be. But as soon as you stop taking that pill, those things are going to come back until you actually deal with the root cause. And that's where I figured out that I shouldn't be putting this in my body. I really want to teach girls that we can solve the root cause of that problem without having to affect long-term fertility or your health or change your hormones or whatever it might be.
And even mental health, Courtney, because I've started reading about the connection between contraceptive pill and depression in women, right? So I think I think that's opened up a whole can of worms because I struggled with depression all through my 20s and 30s. And I'm starting to see a lot of clinical evidence around depression and contraceptive pill. And I think that's a really interesting thing that's come out about
and
that.
And anxiety as well.
Anxiety.
It increases anxiety a lot. Like we need to be more anxious about anything right now. That's a really, really big one for girls as well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things coming out now that we just never questioned before. We were never taught to, and it's the same for men, right? Like same for like what happens with prostate cancer and not checking things. And I think there's just a lot more health information coming out, and looking at health holistically, not just what you're putting in your body, but how it impacts you on all levels.
I also heard a podcast, can't remember what one, but this doctor was interviewed and she said that her doctor's practice, the contraceptive pill or hormonal birth control contributed to 30% of her income. So just to, a massive, just to like make money for the clinic, we'll just put every 15-year-old girl on the pill because that's just making us. Like, I was like, that made me sick. I was like, this cannot go on. And now I'm having a daughter. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like,
So Courtney, you mentioned that you're working with young women now. What? Tell us about that. What are you doing?
Yeah, this is something that was born probably 2 years ago, and I absolutely love it. It's my most favorite thing to do. Like, I think when I met Mel, we spoke about like just female health and contraception for like so long in the middle of the gym, just because I'll talk to anyone about it. Working obviously in a gym for over 13 years, I really just loved starting to work more with females. And we all hear that rumor, like, don't lift weights, you're going to get bulky. All you have to do is do cardio to lose weight because you have to look, tiny all the time. And this is how you're going to lose body fat. But I started to really learn more about how strength training and good quality nutrition can affect your hormones and how to support that and link it all together. So now, I work with females who kind of have a pretty good background in training, but they want to dive a little bit deeper into their strength training. They really want to focus on nutrition. So it's not as though, we're eating in a calorie deficit all the time, or we're eating low carb or low fat. We're trying to move away from that and just give our body exactly what it needs. And then teaching them all about their menstrual cycle as well, because most people go, okay, it's time to have a baby. Now what? Most doctors will say have sex every second day, which is like, imagine doing that. Like, some people try for a year. Imagine having sex every second day.
That sounds like a male doctor.
Exactly. Like, seriously, like, I'm sorry, that's like impossible. So just teaching girls more about it to feel more empowered and not knowing that they probably don't have a fertility issue. They just need to get their timing right, but just educating and empowering them on that, because we never were taught that at school. I think it's such an important thing. So linking them all together to really help girls, feel more confident, I guess, have a purpose, feel strong and feel empowered, kind of like what I wasn't when I was in Hawaii is now what I do. And I guess that's kind of where it was born from, essentially.
So, Courtney, you're mainly dealing with, sort of late teenage girls. Is that the sort of main group you're working with?
Actually, I work with like a little bit of the older girls, not older, but I mean anywhere from like 25 normally, a little bit older. So
okay, right.
They might have a bit of experience. They've been on the pill for a while. They might be in a long-term relationship, but they're eventually thinking about starting a family. So stopping, that hormonal birth control is important, like way before you want to start having a baby. So just teaching them about that, learning about your cycle, and how it's linked to everything, how you can train with it, support it with nutrition. Because I think not many girls know that, like, your hormones are based on your health and they're a sign of your health. So just supporting that without having to take medication or take extra supplements, but just from good food and training and rest, like that can make a pretty powerful impact on your health.
Sure.
Courtney, I did a 28-day hormone health diet. I can't remember the name of the dietitian, and she was saying that like it was amazing. Like I just didn't understand how hormones interacted with your diet to make you feel better, and so I did this 28-day challenge. But she was saying that still, even in her industry and even in doctors and specialists, they still completely discount healthy food, not having alcohol as having any impact on hormones. So they still don't look at it holistically. And I think that's where things are changing, where people are taking a little bit more control of their health and understanding it more from that angle.
Yeah, and I think people like to be educated as well. Like more people want to learn more because I think they're getting to the point where they're like, okay, well, what I'm doing isn't working or hasn't worked, or I'm getting worse, not better. So what changes can I make? And I think now we see like more females in particular talking about things like this to really support and educate younger girls as well. Because if I knew this, years ago, I would never have gone off the pill. I would have learned about my cycle, and things probably would have been very different with my cycles or painful periods and things like that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about the last 18 months. I know just anecdotally and just looking at what research is showing that because of COVID and lockdown, so many people have just completely given up on their physical health. They put on weight. Like, have you seen that in your business with the impact of COVID on people's, not just their mental health, their physical health, everything that's going on for them, and how that's going to be turned around, I guess?
Absolutely. It's been a massive one. And initially, the first thing I noticed in the initial lockdown was that a lot of my clients were reporting menstrual cycle irregularities, not from receiving anything, but just purely from stress initially, because we were locked down and we didn't know what we were doing, couldn't go to work, all that kind of stuff. So that was the first thing. And then people were spending more time at home. So they were moving less, then they were eating more because they were, maybe eating their feelings or a bit depressed, a bit emotional. So they were eating more.
Drinking heaps of wine.
Drinking was a big one as well. Exactly. And not going anywhere. And I think eventually, initially everyone's like, oh, this is like a fun little holiday. And then over time, people are like, this is getting worse. I need to do something about it. And it was great for my business because people still wanted to do more with their nutrition. So we could do it all online, and we could still, we had like a new recipe a week you had to cook and different things that just kept people excited, but still focusing on health, not just throwing it all away. So I think stress played a huge part of it. It still does. And that's a big thing I talk to my clients about, anyone really. I'm like, our goal is always to minimize stress wherever we can to help our health, our hormones. And stress could be, not eating enough, eating too much, not training enough, training too much, living in a pandemic, being locked down, not seeing our friends, all this stuff. We need to minimize that as much as possible. But then you also saw people who were putting on weight, not moving enough, may have got like back injuries from sitting down all day. So like all these things were linked. And I think it's only now, I started an 8-week course, like more and more people were like, okay, I need to do anything. Like I don't even care if Christmas is coming up. They're just like, I want, people are like, oh, I don't want to start anything till February. But now they're like, I just need to like get this back. Rein it all in, because I guess then, that affects your mental health, and it just is that vicious cycle where we all get stuck in. So trying to break through that.
Yeah.
So Courtney, what advice have you got to not just young girls and young women, but anyone really to, as far as their health and fitness regime go, that can help their mental health as well? Do you have any advice around that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a big one, especially in terms of our cycle and our hormones and how our mental health changes, and then how our food can affect that. We know that mental health can be, connected to gut health as well. And then taking the pill will affect your gut health and your it's like all connected, and it's just like this crazy cycle. But there's a few things I have. The first thing is eat more real food. And I'm not saying like eat lots of it, but I'm saying eat good quality meat, fruit and veg, like have the yum stuff, but like stay away from the diet foods and the no sugar and the low carb and low cal things, because they're just not full of anything good. If we think back ancestrally, we want to be eating, all the animal products and full fat dairy and heaps of fruit and honey and stuff like that now we're taught is bad for us.
Yeah.
So eat, more real food is a really, really big one. And that's actually one I started doing when I went through, my diet phases, I guess. I used to eat all that stuff, and they have all artificial sweeteners in it. We know that they cause inflammation, they affect your gut, they affect your mental health, like everything. So get rid of that stuff and just eat real food.
Yeah.
Number 2 is stop thinking you need to train more, because that's really, really common with females, sometimes with guys as well. They just want to get to the gym because they want to look buff. But we forget that smashing ourselves in the gym is actually causing more stress most of the time. So training is a stress. We don't need to do it every single day. We don't need to do an hour of cardio every single day. We just want to make sure that we are progressing in the gym, but not, we can't recover, and we think we have to do it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Exercise our food off and stuff like that. For females, track your cycle. It's like the number one most like empowering thing you can do. I remember like Rory used to hate when I talked about my period, and now he's like gets so excited about it. I'm like, this happened and this happened, and I go back in my cycle and this happened, and he's like, cool. I'm actually obviously very excited I'm pregnant, but sad I won't get a period for another 9 months or whatever it is. And again, minimize stress. I know that's really, really hard. We can't eliminate it, we can't get rid of it, but minimize it wherever we can, whether it's eating real food, whether it's strength training, sleeping more, talking to your friends more. Like, we just need to minimize stress where we can, because even if you don't feel stressed, like collectively the whole world is stressed, so we need to minimize that. Magnesium baths is a good one. I started that.
Yeah. So Courtney, you're pregnant. How far in are you?
6
Congratulations.
months tomorrow.
Thank you. 6 months.
6 months tomorrow. I know, it's crazy. Gonna have a little summer baby, a mini mermaid.
Right.
Fantastic.
And so how are you feeling about the future, Courtney? Like bringing a baby into a new world? How does that feel? Like, that's a big thing to be happening at this point in time in humanity. So
it's huge. And when we announced it, everyone's like, oh, a lockdown baby, but I keep telling people that Newcastle wasn't in lockdown when she was conceived, so she's not a lockdown baby. Okay. We were still just living life. It is scary. Like, it is pretty scary, but I feel that we have some pretty good people around us who are really supportive, who understand our situation, who know what's best for us and what we want, I guess. I think I'm more excited just to be able to contribute through her and leave a legacy, to be able to teach her things, and hopefully, she can continue to teach females or males, like whatever she decides to do, but just help people and teach people. And I guess that will be my little legacy and contribution to the world, to be able to bring this little girl up and teach her all the good stuff we know.
Well, girls are amazing. I've got a 5-year-old now. I can't believe she's 5. It goes so fast. You wait, it'll just go. The next. Oh no!
In your head, were you freaking out about all this period chat? Like, oh my god, what have I got?
I was thinking about that too.
So, Courtney, what's your hopes for the future?
I guess for me, my goal is to continue really empowering females around their health and their hormones, to kind of, I don't think I'll ever kill diet culture, but to kind of move away from that and teach girls that they don't have to always have a 6-pack, and they don't always have to train every day and look like all those girls on Instagram that we see, because that's what I thought I had to do as a coach. But now, from my experiences and what I've learned, I've realized that it's not obviously all about how you look. It's not about your 6-pack. It's really about your health and your mental health and how you can really improve that. So my goal is just to continue to educate and teach girls and guys, because I think it's really important for guys to know about this stuff as well. And bring this little girl into the world happy and healthily. And that's, I guess, all I can hope for.
Great, Courtney. That's. I think that's a fantastic way to wrap up the hopes of the future, and it's been really valuable to have you on and provide all this great information and your journey with health. And I think that's just going to be the focus for so many people.
Absolutely, Courtney. Tell us, how can people follow you? How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, awesome. So I have an Instagram page at Coach Courtney Brown. Definitely no six packs there anymore. They're all like bellies and massive boobs. So I have Instagram at Coach Courtney Brown. You can follow me on Facebook. Courtney Brown is my name. I do have a free Facebook community for girls to join. It's called Nutrition, Training and the Menstrual Cycle for women who train. And I go live every week in there with experts or just myself talking about things, post lots of ebooks and free stuff in there so they can find that. It's on my Instagram as well. And I do strength training as well. The website's www.humanstrengthandnutrition.com with my partner. We have a pretty solid strength and conditioning program online that people can do at home or at the gym, which is, not super high intensity because no one needs that these days. But yeah, that's where they can find that too, Human Strength and Nutrition. So that's me.
Great, Courtney. We'll put those in the show notes.
Thank you.
Courtney, it's been fantastic to meet you. So thanks so much for joining us. It's such an amazing information that you've given there that young women in particular are just going to find this episode very, very beneficial. So thanks so much for joining us.
We'd
love
Courtney.
to catch up with you again down the track and see how the little baby is and how you're coping there. That'd be amazing to catch up down the track. But thanks again. Everyone, get onto Courtney's Instagram page and give her a follow. It's been another fantastic episode. Mel, thanks for tracking down another great guest.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you. Thanks, Courtney.
Hey, see you later, guys.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you.